Externally, what happens, so you start getting more frustrated and you have a lack of coping skills. You get this behavioral loss of control. And finally, your denial breaks and you get down to this place here that's called option reduction, down toward the end there, okay? That's when it gets so crazy that you feel so overwhelmed that this is the thought process you have in your head. I'm either gonna drink or use, go crazy, or kill myself right now. Now, what's the healthiest option out of those three? Yeah, drinking and using, right? And people wonder why we want to drink and use. My sister said, you want to get high? And I said, it's better than killing you right now, ain't it? You know, and she'd go, what? I go, get out of my face. Okay, and she'd be like, oh. I mean, seriously, I mean, it was that, you know, it felt that close, like people were that close, right? I said, right now you're poking a wounded dog with a stick. If you don't want to get bit, you better get out of my space, right? And she'd be like, God, you're an ass. I thought recovery's supposed to help you get better. And I said, you know, but that's what it feels like. So it's the healthiest. If that's all you have at that point, if you're that overwhelmed, it is the healthiest choice at that point, okay? The goal of recovery is not about not drinking. It's about putting other things in your bag, your coping skills, your support systems, your resources, so that you have more tools to be able to handle life when it happens to you. Because the earlier you are when you start drinking and using, that's when you stop developing healthy adaptive coping skills. My response is, Chris, we look in your bag, you got drinking and using, running away, blaming people, or getting big. That's all you have for coping. You know, I started at 10, drinking and using pretty heavily almost every day for 14 years. And I got sober at 24, and it was like, I said, Bill, I mean, I would go from a stuck point down to, I'm gonna kill everybody, or myself. I could get there in 5 minutes some days, right? And that's why I had to have this safety card for the first 2 years on my person. I had to carry it with me for 2 years, because I could go from having a great day to like, I'm gonna get high right now. Like that. And I couldn't explain it to anybody else that wasn't a recovering addict. I'd say, you know, people that have never tried to quit, I'd say, try to quit and see how you feel. Try to quit, see how you feel. And they're like, because they go, oh, I can quit anytime, I'm fine, I'm whatever. And I go, well, how do you know? You know, if you have an active relationship with anything, even if it's not good for you, you're still not grieving the loss of it, right? I mean, you can date somebody that's bad for you, and if you don't leave, you're still going to get beat up every day, right? Right. Okay. All right. So you can, if you go on, if you use, you can use and have a lapse, right? If you use, that's called a lapse. If you have enough awareness, you can go, uh-oh, I just used once. Holy crap. Now, I don't know about you all. I don't have an off switch. I don't even know what that means. So when I use once, it ain't once. I'm using till the money's gone, the booze or the drugs are gone, all the people are gone, all the, you know, whatever, okay? So my use is like not one time. I don't get that. I'm just off and running for whatever period of time, okay? Until some consequence catches up with me. I'm a late stage addict. I don't even know. I don't get people that can drink half a glass of wine or half a beer. I go, how the hell do you do that? That's like magic for me. My sister can do that. She'll drink a half glass of wine at dinner and she just leaves it at the end. And I go, are you gonna drink that? She goes, you're such an alcoholic. I said, oh my God. She says, I'm done. She goes, I have a different motivation for drinking than you, Chris. And I don't get cravings. That's the difference between an addict and a social drinker or a user. Social drinkers or users don't get a craving to keep using more and more and more. They get to a point where they go, I'm uncomfortable, I need to stop. That was my goal, to get that way, right? Like, what? Why start if there's only one beer in the fridge? Okay, smoke a roach? Well, you're not gonna get a real buzz off that. Like, what? Scrape the bowl? Hitting a rock? For what? Aftertaste? You know, screw that. It's not going to do anything for me. Okay? That's how addicts think. All right? All right, so you can either use, or if you don't use again, because you don't have any coping skills, I've seen people that say, I can't drink or use anymore, but they don't have any backup system, they don't have any other way of coping with it, and they wind up killing themselves in recovery because it gets too much. I've seen people do that in treatment. They stop coming to aftercare, they do whatever, and they don't get help getting coping skills and support. And it gets too overwhelming, and they go, I can't go back and use because the judge will put me in prison. It's whatever their bottom is at that point. And they just make I can't go back to that. But life is too overwhelming, or they have too much shame or guilt, and they wind up killing themselves. I've seen that happen too. It's sad, man. It's really sad. I'm like, oh, you know, you're just at the beginning of recovery. All right? So you can if you use down here, though, and if you keep going, right, they say that, you know, we keep going with alcohol and drugs, what do they say in AA, until we're sobered up, covered up, or locked up. Jail's institution or death, right? Okay, so, you know, if you keep going, eventually, you know, they say that you'll die from it. It's a fatal disease. Okay, so you can have this moment of sanity, though, where you wake up, like if you've had a lapse or like a binge or something like that, you go, oh my God, I just broke all these agreements I made with myself and other people to stay in recovery. I broke the commitment to myself. That causes the most damage, right, when you break it with yourself. So, you know, you can reconsolidate by, first of all, managing your post-acute withdrawal, calming your brain down, getting your body under control again, getting reconnected with people in recovery, but then going back up and figuring out, what was this stuck point? What was this point in my recovery? What just happened in my life? But you have to be logical to do that, right? Your brain can't be all haywire and post-acute withdrawal and like act like the front part of your thinking part of your brain shut down. You know, the worst thing you can do is try to argue logic and reason with somebody that's in active relapse process. A dry drunk is just as hard to have a logical argument with as somebody drinking or using. Okay, because that part of their brain isn't working very well. So, you know, and you know that anybody ever tried to win an argument with a dry drunk? Okay, it don't work, do it? Okay. You know, Thomas Paine wrote that trying to argue with somebody that's given up the sense of reason is the same thing as administering medicine to the dead. Trying to give somebody medicine that's dead is pretty pointless, right? Same thing if you're like, I've never won a fight with a drunk or an argument. They're just not coming from a healthy place. Right, so that's why I say, call me before you drink. I won't talk to you when you're drinking or getting high if I'm sponsoring somebody. Okay, I won't talk with your addiction, because addiction is just self-centered and irrational. So, what you can start doing is you can start recognizing, like, when you're in post-acute withdrawal. So there's a check-in that you can do every day on that, if you have a way of checking in every day, and starting to learn what are the relapse warning signs and stuff like that, and understanding that this will happen to everybody, because we all have stuck points, right? I used to think I was doing something wrong because I was thinking about it or wanting to. But if you can normalize that and go, oh, there it is. My addiction's talking to me. There must be something going on. There's a stuck point. But the first thing I have to do is manage my post-acute withdrawal. I got to calm my brain down, okay? And so using the suggestions last week we talked about, along with safety cards, if you're this is for powerful cravings and urges. When you're just like thinking like, I can handle one. You know, in AA, they all said it's the engine that kills you, not the caboose, right? It's the first drink or drug. It's not the last one, because the first one sets you off, right? Okay, so having those tools to be able to do that. If you turn to the next page, it's on the inside. It says relapse warning signs. Okay, my sponsor made me do this when I first got sober with him. He made me have a table at my house, and every night I had this, he gave me this, right? He gave me these sheets right here. And every night I had to like go through and check off. I had a journal that I had to check off, but the first thing I had to do is go, did I have any of these warning signs today? Okay, so I went through and started looking at the warnings. Did you need one? Oh, you got one, okay. All right, so the first one is resentment. Okay, what's a resentment? What's that? Holding grudges. What else? Living, feeling paralyzed is a resentment, pushing down your fear, not talking about your feelings. Okay?
I resent that I can't drink.
Yeah, yeah. Why me? Yeah, actually, that's more grief. Okay? A resentment would be poor me. Poor me, I can't drink. Okay? Why me is pretty healthy. Like when you lose something that mattered to you, that you invested in, it's just grief, right? So every AA meeting or 12, like NA meeting is just a AA's funeral. It's like a funeral service that you can go to. I miss getting high. I miss drinking today. Like I didn't even know you could miss it. I didn't know you were allowed to. Because if you tell your probation officer you miss it, what are they going to do? They'll drop you, right? Let's just make you pay more money. Okay?
So what's the actual definition of resentment? Yeah.
It's pushing down your feelings, any feeling. If you don't deal with your fear, that's a resentment. Okay? If you don't get your grief validated, like you're missing it, like why me? That's a resentment. A resentment, think of the word repress, and then sentiment. S-E-N-T-M-E-N-T, like sentiment, feeling. So you push down your feelings. You're holding on to it, you're not talking about what's really going on with you. How are you? I'm fine.
I always thought it was something that you did that you, and then you later think about it and wish you didn't do it. That must be resentment.
That can be. That's a regret.
Regret. Okay.
That's more of a regret. Okay, you can resent yourself for that, okay? Resentment is holding on to things, okay? It's holding on to any feeling that needs some validation or needs to be dealt with. So it can be fear, it can be anger, it can be grief, it can be anything.
Anger.
Yeah.
Normally.
And anger is the number one that we all talk about, you know. And usually resentments are tied to unrealistic expectations of yourself and other people. When they don't like act the way that you want them to, then we get resentful, right? But even God gave you free will, and even God won't take it away. So we can't take other people's free will away either. You know, I'm working with a woman right now whose husband's having a hard time just getting clean first. I'm sponsoring him, and she called me up and she said, he pisses me off. And I said, his drinking is none of your business. She was like, oh yeah, right? You know, she's cursing me out on the phone. I said, his drink is none of your business. How you respond is yours. His drinking or his recovery where he's at today is none of your business. How you respond to wherever he's at is totally up to you. I said, are you going to Al-Anon? Do you have a 12-step sponsor? Are you doing the things you're telling him to do? Because you're not allowed to demand anything you're not willing to bring. I don't need any help. I'm not the sick one. I said, you live with a sick person, you're going to get sick. Okay? You don't have any ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just, you're just going to get sick. If one person in the family gets cancer, everybody gets it, right? If you get a DUI, the people in your life are affected by it if they got to drive your ass everywhere, right? Okay? It costs them money too, all right? They got to rearrange their life. Everybody's affected. Everybody. So resentments, pushing things down, okay? Post-acute withdrawal, the symptoms, we've got a little checklist that we're going to look at. Isolating yourself. Addiction's a disease of isolation, especially late-stage addiction. And one of the ways I'll say that you know you're a late-stage addict is if you protect your stash. If you're no longer willing to share your stash, you're crossing the line over to late-stage addiction. You know, at the beginning of my using, I was like, people call up, hey, you got any weed? You got any drugs? Yeah, come on over, man, let's have a party. At the end of it, no, I don't got any, but I'll smoke some of yours, right? I'll drink your stuff, I'll do whatever you get. That's late-stage addiction. You start protecting your stash. And isolating. Depression, compulsive or impulsive behaviors. Getting impulsive. If you try to control people, places, and things out here, everybody should be exactly where I want them to be and do what I want them to do. Getting defensive if people start going, man, what's wrong with you? You don't seem right. Get off my ass. You know, that's a sign right there, okay? If people are just going, you don't seem right. I'm fine, leave me alone, okay? Getting the I don't care attitude. In AA, what do they call it? It's not a very nice term, but what do they call it, the I don't care attitude? It's called the okay? That's just what they say in AA, okay? When you start getting that, you're in trouble, all right?